Is second citizenship about to become less expensive? This is a question that I've been asked a lot in recent months. In light of market conditions, in light of chaos in the world, people are asking, are citizenship by investment programs going to offer discounts? Are fast-track naturalization programs going to become more flexible? Are more countries going to open up their own residence and citizenship options? I'm going to share with you my thoughts on this as not only a consumer, but a practitioner in this video. Hey guys, I'm Andrew Henderson. Here at Nomad Capitalist, we help successful entrepreneurs and investors legally reduce their tax overseas, protect themselves with a second passport, invest in new markets, and oftentimes, do all three of those things together to achieve one common goal. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. We've got almost 2,000 free blog articles there also with lots of information. But let's talk about this question that comes up whenever there is chaos in the market is, can I get a deal, right? We, as nomad capitalists, tend to be folks who are out looking for deals. People are looking for an edge, right? That's why you are here. And so let me kind of explain my philosophy on this as a consumer, but also as someone who watches the market and sees what's going on with folks from all around the world. Okay? Right now, there is tremendous concern in the world. Okay? You go to places that I go, places in Eastern Europe, places in the Middle East, places in South America, Latin America, many parts of Asia. People are realizing that being tied to one country is not a good idea. I think a lot of the people already realized it because perhaps in many of those countries they have seen some kind of adversity in their lifetime or their parents saw it in their lifetime, and they knew that they needed to protect themselves, but they needed a push. The situation in 2020 was the push. Now, a lot of folks who are from the West, where I'm originally from, they don't see that. They think, hey, my country's going to do a great job protecting me. When the pandemic rolls out and stock markets are cratering, what does the U.S. government say? They put an ad saying, trust the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. All of our banks will make sure that your money is perfectly safe. And a lot of people buy that. And so I think if you're in that society, if you're a Westerner, it's easy to think that when the market goes down, or when there's some kind of shock to the system, that countries are going to discount their offerings. Now, here's what I think. I think you're going to see a lot more demand, and in fact, here we've seen a lot more demand, increasingly defensive demand from folks who just want to get a second passport. They want to set up shop somewhere overseas. They may not want to move overseas, but they are increasingly building out their infrastructure to be able to do so if they need to, because they're seeing the need for a plan B. I think around the world, that's the sentiment. Now, at the peak of the 2020 chaos, most people in the industry, in the citizenship industry, were saying that they saw a downturn in business because people were concerned about being able to travel, that kind of thing. What's interesting is most citizenship by investment programs, you don't need to travel. We had a series of record months. And again, it was driven by folks who were looking for that plan B. And so based on all of that, I think you will see select price drops for some of the higher level services or some of the things where countries can reduce the price for citizenship by investment, let's say for a family of four. And you've already started to see that. What I think you're not going to see is a drop in the base price. And so a lot of the people who ask me, is it going to become cheaper to get a second citizenship, generally tend to be single. If you're a single applicant doing a citizenship by investment program, I feel pretty comfortable in a $100,000 floor in the Dominicas, the St. Lucias, etc. Because in Antigua, for example, they actually added $5,000 in costs to their program. It was $125,000 with all the processing. Now it's $130,000. What you have seen is the St. Lucias, for example, come out and they've cut their bond investment in half. Perhaps you'll see countries reducing their real estate investments or shortening hold times or cutting the costs to the processing fees for real estate investors or for business investors. You may see countries opening up new options. So I think all those kind of ancillary options that aren't as common, where the government had more margin, where it just wasn't as good of a deal, those will start to tighten up. I mean, so again, in St. Lucia, you could make previously a $100,000 donation, or you could put $500,000 in bonds for 5 to 6 years at zero interest, okay? It just wasn't really much of a comparison. If you had any kind of investments going on, you just made the donation, you forgot about it, we move on to the next thing, and you keep the other 400 grand to invest in your business, the stock market, etc. Now it's 100,000 versus 250. With all the fees, you're saving about 70 grand. And so now it's a bit closer. Is it still a great deal? For a lot of investors, especially in the crypto space, we had a day trader recently who's making a lot of money doing trading. It's probably still a better deal to make the donation. And so I think that you're going to see countries tightening up the stuff that wasn't as competitive to become more competitive. I think $100,000 is probably a pretty good price floor. And we are seeing other countries, whispering about getting into the residence by investment game, where you become a resident and maybe in the future you can become a citizen, as well as the citizenship by investment game. I think any of those new countries are probably not going to go below that price floor. Much to my chagrin, I think it's been a generally accepted practice in selling second citizenship that you need visa-free access to Europe to market a passport. Now, Turkey challenged that. They've got a very, very successful program going on right now, and I think their price is very reasonable considering the demand that they have gotten for a number of reasons. Other programs that are being talked about, if they don't have access to Europe, it's just not going to be sold by the people who are selling this visa-free travel, because a lot of Chinese and Middle Eastern investors are looking for that travel as a reason to buy their passport. They're not always looking at it as a plan B. So we're increasingly hearing from a couple other countries where you're hearing whispers of new residence or citizenship programs. And since, much to my chagrin, so much emphasis in the marketing of these programs has been put on, do you have visa-free travel to Europe? The countries that are talking about rolling out new programs generally have that visa-free travel to Europe. And I think that, based on my interview with Les Kahn, who runs the St. Kitts program, countries are looking for an edge. Okay, so Vanuatu, for example, they have a program that's basically on par, a little bit more expensive than the Caribbean programs. And even though the visa-free travel isn't quite as good as some of the Caribbean programs, their argument is, well, we're in the South Pacific, it's different, it's unique. Okay. I don't know if anyone particularly cares whether their passport's in the South Pacific, whether their passport's in the Caribbean. It's a flag of convenience, I say, right? You don't have to go and live there. You're not probably planning on going and live there. But, okay, that's been their proposition. When you talk to folks in Vanuatu, hey, we're different. We're in the South Pacific. So let's just say the Solomon Islands, which has talked about rolling out a program. They're going to say, hey, we're also in the South Pacific. That's our unique value proposition. If you don't want the Caribbean, if you don't want to be that close to the U.S., then we're another option. And they're going to basically say, hey, they're 100 grand, we're 100 grand. This is me speculating, but that's what I think they'll say, and they'll just focus on their own marketing angle. I think the beauty of these programs is it brings reality to the citizenship marketplace, that everything has a price attached to it, everything has a value. But I also think that countries are not going to sell themselves short because there is so much demand. Demand for residence and citizenship is rising every year as people want this plan B, as people who have bad passports want to get good visa-free travel to do business, to educate their kids, etc. And so I don't see many opportunities below $100,000 price floor. Now, a number of years ago, there was a Comoros program, $45,000. There were rumors that there would be a program in Armenia a couple years ago with a $50,000 donation because Armenia and the Comoros do not have visa-free travel to Europe, and so they are much less interesting to many people who are getting these. Even then, I think those prices would be too low in today's marketplace. If you look at some of the more opaque programs, like in Cambodia, their price has gone through the roof. Now, in Cambodia, you have the opportunity to buy real estate, buy land as a citizen that you don't as a foreigner, where you're more restricted. And so there's certainly some value there. I don't know how many people who are going out and shelling the roughly $250,000 that I'm hearing thrown around right now for Cambodian citizenship through donation. How many of them are going out and buying up tons and tons of farmland to make that pretty bad passport worth $250,000. So there is plenty of demand out there. And I think what's important to realize is, if you're sitting in the Western world, most of your friends and neighbors and family are probably telling you that you're crazy to think about getting a second citizenship. Most people that I work with, they tell me, I'm not discussing this with my friends. I stopped talking to my parents about it. I stopped talking to my brother and sister about it because they're like, what? What? You're going to Georgia for what? Like what? Everything's so great here. Everything's amazing. We go to Chipotle. It's great. What are you going to leave? And so if you're living in that world, you're probably thinking, hey, this thing's going to be on sale. They're going to be slashing prices like it's going out of style. But in reality, what I've seen and what I've talked to other people in the business about is there has been, at the trough of 2020, there was pent-up demand growing because people were itching to get a modicum of confidence back and go out and get their passports set up. So I think you'll see more opportunities coming out. But if you look at the opportunities that have come out in the recent years, Turkey cut their real estate program to a $250,000 investment. That program is pretty well priced. But look at Montenegro, donation that's higher than most Caribbean programs, along with an overpriced real estate investment. Jordan, Egypt, ridiculous, right? So a lot of these programs, they come out and they're not competitive. The Caribbean, Vanuatu remain some of the most competitive. I think other programs that are introduced will be on the same page, if not higher. They'll have their own value proposition. Countries will trim the fat on some of the less competitive options. But I don't see dramatic costs reducing. In fact, if you go back to the 90s, you could get passports for $25,000, $35,000, $40,000. So that definitely shows that more and more people are interested in this. If you want to get it, I kind of start focusing in this world on finding the best deals. One thing with Nomad Capitalist is if there's real estate involved, we do try and find the best real estate deals that fund the RBI or CBI program, because I don't want people to overpay in countries like Portugal or Cyprus or whatever. Some of those real estate markets are very overpriced when you're doing it with citizenship or residence providers. But outside of that, if you want a second passport, if you want a second residence, if you want to get your safe haven going, I do think now is a good time to do it. You'll see some ancillary discounts, but I think on the core programs, you won't see a lot of discounts. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.